What is up, YouTube? My name is G3Iron, and today I'm joined by a guildie and fellow friend and player of Bank of Exile, BlastingMouz, who ran 100 Glacier maps, and we're going to chat with him today about some of the results that he had from running 50 with Magic Find gear setup and from running 50 with Movement Speed gear setup. We hope that you enjoy the video. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, we look forward to your comments, questions, and discussions down below. So first off, I guess, Blasting, just tell us a little bit about what the setup was for this experiment. I mean, like, right now, pretty much the meta is people spamming Glacier maps, right?
Yeah, so you go in, you just run a Glacier map, and you just hit the Legion, and then you clear it, pick up all the loot, and reset.
Okay.
And
the reason why people are spamming that Glacier is just because of why? What's the reason?
The layout is really good, because the Glacier will spawn, or the Monolith will spawn in the entryway for Glacier like 19 out of 20 times or so.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, it'll be there almost instantly. You can see it run straight to it, hit it, and then it's a complete circle that you can hit. And occasionally there'll be a wall in the way, but most of the layouts are just entirely open circle.
Okay, nice. So what was the experiment here that you decided crazily, if I might add, to run? What was the two experiments, as it were? What was your control group, and then what was the experimental group?
So I ran 100 maps with MF gear, and then I ran 100 maps with just movement speed gear. And
Okay.
I just wanted to see which would end up being more chaos per hour.
Okay. Nice. And we'll go over the results of that
Yep.
in just a few minutes. And of course, there will always be timestamps placed somewhere here on the video for people to be able to jump to if they just want to do that. But walk us through just really quickly your setup for your character. So on your profile screen right now, we're taking a look at your Wind Ripper and Queen of the Forest, it looks like. But walk us through this setup that you've got right now on your character profile, which will also be linked on the video discussion.
So this current setup is the move speed version, and the key piece of gear is the Queen of the Forest. And so you're aiming to cap out Queen of the Forest at about 45,000 evasion rating, and you're just, all of the rest of the gear is move speed. And so Starkonja's, because it's a high movement speed piece of gear, it gives you some life, and that's about all you need out of it. And then the Wind Ripper is kind of the key portion of the MF gear, and so that's just 15% more MF. It's good elemental bow, and that's about it for it.
Okay.
And then after that, everything else on this gear is pretty much not required. The Dying Sun is the only big piece of gear outside of the Queen of the Forest, but the Rigwald is unneeded. It's just extra like smoothness, I guess, to the clearing. And
Sure.
then, yeah, you've got Rampage on the gloves. That can be on any other slot. You can get Rampage. And then the Karui's Charge is a bit special, and I'm running that just for the move speed, and then it's some extra damage, and the strength is useful.
Okay, nice.
And
And then you've got
yeah.
these 7 league steps. Those are pretty nice.
Yeah, those are just move speed. You just want to go as fast as you possibly can.
Okay, so what would you swap out? So you said this isn't the MF setup. So this is the move speed setup. So then what would you swap it out for with the MF, or sorry, with the other setup?
Yeah, so the other setup I ran, I had Sedima's Touch for the gloves, and I had a Bisco's Collar. And you can go even farther than that. You can run Bisco's Leash to get Rampage, and then you can run Gold Rims or Gold Worms so that you get an additional 20 on your boot slot.
At that point,
Yeah.
then, too, wouldn't you either go Thief's Torment or, oh goodness, Venter's Gamble? Like
Yes,
if you really
can
just
put
want to deck it
two-
out?
Yeah, you can put 2 Venters in there. You can go for the ring that gives Quant if it's a white socket. Forget the name of it.
Yeah, I think that's Thief's Torment. I could be wrong on that. Or is it Prismatic?
It's probably Prismatic.
Somebody will correct this in the comments down below.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the overview of the gear. And so you said you ran a total of 200 maps, 100 maps with quant gear, 100 maps with move speed gear. And tell us just really quickly about your tree. Give us some of the highlights of this tree that we've got that we're looking at right now.
I think the big focus is picking up as much bow damage as you can, and then picking up as much cold pen, and so that allows you to more easily shatter enemies with Wind Ripper to get the quant. But apart from that, it's picking up as much move speed as possible while not sacrificing too much life, because right now for tier 2s, I found I was getting hit for about 21 to 2300 damage, and so I wanted to get my life about to 27, 28k, or 2800, so that I wasn't getting one shot by one hit and a follow-up hit.
Okay, that makes sense. So this is some pretty, would you say pretty standard in terms of the tree for a pretty standard MF character? If you're coming out of the Ranger tree for, Tornado Shot, Wind Ripper, not too many variations from it? Or would you say there's a few little twists and turns that you put yourself on?
For the most part, it's pretty much the same as everyone else who's running Tornado Shot. I just built the character based off of PoE Ninja's heat map, and then I swapped in between stuff until I found a setup that felt smooth.
Very nice.
The biggest change on it is my Mariketh jewel.
And where's your Mariketh jewel at? I'm looking at your Brutal Restraint right now.
Yeah, that's the Brutal Restraint.
Okay.
And so, yeah, just at the Ranger slot, it's giving me Frenzy Charge generation and more move speed, a bit more percent life, and just overall more damage. And it fits in really nicely to the build.
Okay, very nice. Awesome. So we're going to jump over from the passive tree to some of these results here, which you were good enough to put together for us. So just looking here at the 200 Glaciers results, walk us through each of these runs. You've got a couple of different blocks set up with results. Looks like you ran them in about batches of 50.
Yep.
Okay, so walk us through the first results here for these first 50, which were at 75 Magic Find Quant. Is that right?
Yes. So initially, I just wanted to test out and see how good it was to run glaciers repeatedly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I bought 50 maps, I alped them, and I ran them, and I recorded the results. And I got pretty lucky. I had 2 Exalts drop and 2 Annuls. And then apart from that, I didn't sustain the maps because at that point I hadn't shaped my atlas. I got back about 55 maps. So I got more back, but they weren't all glaciers. And it took me about an hour and a half to run them. It was pretty quick because I had set up all of the maps beforehand. I was just able to pick them up 5 at a time and then dump all the stuff I picked up into a quad tab.
Okay. So probably if folks are out there going, hey, that this is maybe a little bit skewed on that first results just because you did have the 2 Exalted drop. It looks like in the second results, you didn't have an Exalt drop, but you still kept really good profits right around 360 there in the second run, 51 to 100 maps.
Yeah, so that one didn't drop any X. And however, it did have the same number of like tier 1 currency drops to make up for it. But it's just the profit margins are either going to be between or based entirely on how many X's you get. And so you're going to make about 1.6, 2X per 50 maps, regardless, without the X drops. And then any X on top of that is just more money.
Which, even when we're calculating out the investment, like the investment is roughly, right, 125 chaos per 50 maps. So
yep.
if you're making a couple X back in profit, like every dozen maps or so, I mean, this more than pays for itself, regardless if you have your Atlas set up for it or not, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and what did it feel like to run each of the 2 different setups, like both the move speed as well as the Magic Find? I guess actually I should ask you, what's the Magic Find feel like first off, since that's the results we just went over?
It kind of just feels like playing Tornado Shot.
Yeah.
Like the biggest difference between the 2 builds was having Rampage in the movement speed setup, because I didn't have Abyssco's Leash on in the 75 quant. And I think that's like the biggest feel difference, because when you're popping the Legion out during the first phase of the monolith, like now those stack count as rampage stacks. And so you very, very quickly get to about 500 or 600 rampage stacks. And so that's the really big difference in the feel.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference. I mean, sitting halfway to a full rampage, it's going to make you feel a lot faster. Okay, so walk me through the second set of results, and then we've got a couple more questions for you here. So how did the first set, the first 50 maps go, and how did they feel? What were the results with the move speed gear?
These felt kind of like more to the average compared to the other. Like just against the entire set, this felt like most like what other results are going to be. Since I only had 1x drop, I still had the 4 tier 1 currencies drop, and during this set I'd already built up a map pool from the previous set and that I was just iterating on, and it was very quick just to alch 25 maps, run them, and then alch the next 25.
Okay.
Pretty much just run in, run out, take about a minute per map.
So that's what this line is down here on like BNC 34, 35 is started with 10 maps, and then you ended with 27. So that's a net gain of 17, right? And when you say maps, you're talking about Glacier maps specifically. So it was sustainable for you at that point.
Yeah, and so that's running with a shaped atlas where I only had Glacier's my only tier 2. I eldered and shaped the adjacent maps, and I removed every other map from my tier 2 and tier 3 pool.
Okay, that makes sense. And then what about the last set of data? It looks like you averaged, or your profit was right around 375C, which just in comparison, like your profit on the first run of each of these sets was both better than your second run. So I'd love to get thoughts on that, if you thought you were just unlucky on the second 50 on both, or maybe if you slowed down, or if there was any other combination of factors going in there. Because your runtime actually went faster on your last set with move speed, but your runtime went slower on your second set of Magic Find.
Yeah, the second set of move speed, I didn't hit any X, and I only had 1 tier 1 currency drop. And so that really skewed the amount of money I made down. Like, it came up because I had about 100 chaos gem drop, and I had a 60 chaos 6-link drop. And so that really made up like 1x of difference in there. But without that, I was trending very low because I just didn't get any X drops.
Yeah. So that that last set would have looked a lot worse than without those couple of drops, which that's always the case, right? When we're doing this, I mean, I feel like the entire playlist of let's run 100 maps, I feel like sometimes the entire set of 100 maps is make or break, depending on a few exalt drops lucky here, or a few unlucky, runs where you just don't have anything drop, which you never know when the next one might drop. So that definitely makes sense. What do you feel like you learned about the Glacier layout? I know that you said that the monoliths spawn really close to the entrance and they're relatively open. Do you feel like there was a noticeable pattern to how you were running, or whether you were moving in particular directions, either starting out to the left, starting out to the right, or if there was any particular thought process in that, or was it simply walk in a straight line, find monolith?
Yeah, pretty much most of the times I would run, just try and split the diagonal on the map, because that's almost always where the monolith will spawn. And if you just follow that path, you'll either hit the monolith or you'll hit the door. And so once I'd hit the monolith, I would pop everything that I could. And while I was doing that, I would hit strong boxes, I'd hit the breaches, I'd hit any abysses that had spawned. And then I'd just kill everything with a second loop. And I'd pick up loot and reset the map.
Okay, very nice. And so that's probably beneficial to be able to loop back, so that way even if something is still alive, you're keeping your rampage stacks up, as opposed to walking from one side to the other and then running out of your rampage stacks. That makes sense. So in terms of your total profits, and of course we've got these divvied up here, but on average it looks like we're somewhere in the 400-ish range, somewhere in the high 300s to low 400s in terms of average profit for each of these runs. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, that's great. And in terms of other expenses that you could think of that you might want to try out in the future, like is there any noticeable difference? I know that you tried out with some white sextants there on the Magic Find attempt, but then you just went straight alk and go for the move speed. Would you ever recommend going with more sextants, or was that just...
Well, the sextant cost was creating unshaping orbs.
Gotcha.
And just to remove the maps. And so that total that came out to about 110 C for that second MF one.
So if you don't have to have that expenditure, then your profit goes way up.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's for the last two runs, it was just the 25 chaos for the alchemies.
Yep. That makes a lot of sense.
Once you're sustaining the maps, that's the really big bulk of the cost is the 2C to buy maps.
And do you feel...
You can get rid...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, once you can get rid of that 2C cost by shaping your map, so it pretty much covers in about 35... Once you run 35 maps, it'll cover the cost of shaping your atlas.
Okay, very nice. Now, it says here at the very end that you started with 27 maps for your last run, ended with 45 maps. So now is like the big question for anybody that's staring at their atlas and going, should I do this? So first off, was it fun? Was this fun for you to do?
Yeah, it was pretty entertaining. Just seeing X's drop constantly. Because it's like every 13, 14 maps you see a T1 currency. It's like, ooh, here's another one. And you're constantly cranking them out. And so it's very easy once you get in the swing of things to just turn on some music or turn on a TV show and watch that while you're doing this, and you can make a lot of currency very quickly.
Or you can turn on a G3 show.
Yep.
Shameless self-promotion. Okay, so it was fun. You would do it again. Are you going to plan on doing this again? Do you have plans to optimize your move speed farming even further?
Yes. I think going forward, I'm going to try and fit in Abyssco's leash for Rampage, maybe try a slightly more MF Pure. But the big difference, I think, is going to be setting up offhand gem leveling so that I can level Empowers and Enlightens for corrupting. And I think that'll really help the currency because you can get very good XP doing this. I think I started at about level 69 and I ended at level 85.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And this was just in 5.5 hours of running maps.
Yeah, that's a great way to level a character. I mean, doing early maps. If you've got a low-level character that's just finished up Kitava, you might as well run this. Yeah,
it felt very safe to run. Very few deaths. I think the Legion bosses are the biggest factor that'll kill you. And so that was very specifically for me was the Templar boss because I haven't seen him very much. And so he can kind of catch you off guards if you're not paying attention.
Okay, right on. And then, of course, the thing that I have been fascinated by the most with during Legion League has just been the incubators. Do you think you'll try anything out with incubators? Like, would it really, potentially be even more profitable if you loaded yourself up on incubators or even used the incubators rather than just selling them, but just to make sure that you're always taking incubators off since you're killing so many monsters per hour?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the price of incubators. Like, if you're just running your own incubators, they should, on average, pay for themselves, or like the potential cost you would have gotten from just selling them. But the big ones I've been running are the ones that drop splinters. That's the obscured. They drop breach splinters and the breach stones, and so that you can make a lot of profit just by running those. You can make a lot from the currency drops, and so that just gives you another chance at X shards and annul shards.
Right on. And mirror shards, right? Mirror shards?
Yes. I guess it's supposed to be able to drop.
Supposedly, right? Supposedly. Yeah. All right, so the final analysis on this was it cost you 285 chaos in total to run it. Your profit was 1,900 chaos. Your gross profit, which, of course, for you kids at home playing economics, that means that it's the cost subtracted from your profit. So the gross is 1,600 total chaos. Your gross profit in X is about 10X. Your gross profit per map was over 8 chaos per map. So in theory, if somebody is able to run 800 of these maps, they're going to make, I don't even know what's if they're able to run 100 maps, they're going to make 800 chaos on average. Is that what we're saying? Wow.
Yep.
I can't do math, otherwise I'd do it. The gross profit per map from Magic Find gear was slightly worse. Gross profit per map with move speed gear was slightly better. So those of you wondering if move speed versus MF, if there is a difference, there is a difference. It's only slight. This took you just under 6 hours to do, 5 hours and 45 minutes. Is there anything that you would do to speed this up?
Alking all the maps beforehand, I think, is the really big thing, because then you can just grab them. You don't really need to look at the mods since you've already done that beforehand.
Okay.
And then, just stacking as much move speed as you can get while still being able to kill everything.
Right on. Well, Blasting, thanks so much first off, for being insane and running 100 maps with 2 different setups. And then thanks for being willing to share your results. I guess my final question, which I did not prep you on, is are you going to continue playing Bank of Exile and flipping and trading, or is this going to be more of your primary thing that you're going to do from here on out?
I think I'll do both, because I like the break from the game kind of that you get from banking, and you can still make a lot of money and find different holes in the market. But at the same time, this is a really nice way just to play the game. It's like, oh, I want to kill some stuff and make a decent amount of money at the same time.
For sure. Well, thanks again for joining us for this Blasting, and hopefully today is the day that a Mirror of Calandra drops for you on your next 100 maps.
Yep.
Thanks for watching that video. If you'd like more information on any of our discussion points today, you can see them down below in the video description. If you'd also like to join our Discord or support our Patreon, you can do so with the links down below. Thanks again, and big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters.